Good day everyone! Welcome to our video discussion. My name is Micaela Verueco and my group members are Rica Zaida Verde, Clarissa Mercado, Jonaline Lopez, Giselle Cruda, Felicity Lahom, Angela Bernardo, Jeric Fernando, and Melody Gozon. Our topic for today is all about role and competencies of a school head.
Let's have the intended learning outcomes. At the end of this chapter, you should be able to discuss the competencies expected of a school head as contained in competency frameworks for Philippines and for Southeast Asia.
Before we proceed to the discussion, let's first define what is role, competencies, and school head. Role is a function assumed as part played by a person or thing in a particular situation. When we say role, it is the task or responsibilities that was assigned to you as part of the organization or community you belong. Next is competencies. The ability to do something successful or efficiently. The person should have gained in order to fulfill his vision and mission in life. Lastly, school head is the staff member of a school with the greatest responsibility for the management of the school. A school head has the vital role of the school improvement, wherein the school head should perform good attributes or attitudes in order to imitate those attitudes of the learnings. And now, let's move on to our discussion. As stipulated in Chapter 1, Section 5, E of RA 9155, the school head is an administrative and instructional leader. Why school head is said to be administrative and instructional leader? Because the main function of school is students' learning. Then, the school head must spend more time as an instructional leader. Another is that a school head has to maintain good ambience of school and to have good interaction with his or her co-teachers for them to become productive and efficient teachers with desirable attitudes towards students to attain high level of education. Now that we know school head is an administrative and instructional leader, so what is the difference between instructional and administrative leader? When we say school head as an instructional leader, he or she supervises instruction by observing teachers while they teach, conducting post-observation conferences with individual teachers, monitoring and coaches them, and ensuring that teachers have the needed resources for teaching. These roles of school head as instructional leader is important for teachers to be effective teachers and for students to have a good learning and learning for school to have quality education. Let us now find out the role of a school head as an administrative leader. Should head as an administrative leader is concerned of physical improvement and fund sourcing. The concerns of administrative leadership help improve schools. The more important concern is improvement of instruction, as this has a direct bearing of learning. More often than that, however, school heads spends more time soliciting funds for a flagpole, stage, classroom, pathwalk, waiting shed, and etc. Right? Leaving no time for instructional supervision. Now, let's proceed to the competencies for school heads. In the list of competencies expected of the school head, there are competencies for both instructional leadership and administrative leadership. Now, let's take a look at the competencies expected in a school head as contained in the National Competency-Based Standards for School Heads or NCBS-SH. in DepEd Order 32 of 2010 on April 16, 2010. And now, let's try to find out what is this NCBA's ASH, or the National Competency-Based Standards for School Heads, and how important it is for school heads. Many teachers could be thinking and wondering why they are the only subject of a national competency standard. Whether immediate superiors, the school heads are not, but it's not actually the case for like the teachers who are considered as the heart of the school system. School heads too will be under national competency standards as stated in DepEd Order number 32 of 2010. So, what is NCB's ASH? DepEd Order number 32 of 2010 defines it as a list of competency standards which can be used as basis for the school heads' decision-making, actions, and performances of their functions. It is used as basis for the preparation of a comprehensive training and development based on expected tasks that will be utilized to deliver training programs to ensure efficiency, effectiveness, and excellence of school heads' job performance. NCBSSH is basically a self-appraisal tool, which is accomplishment by the school heads themselves. The school heads are asked to complete a self-assessment instrument where they identify the behaviors they have consistently demonstrated in their role as a school head across the 7 domains. There are 5 principles which guided the framing of the NCBSSH. The first one is the function base. The competencies are based on school head functions as stated in RA 9155, related laws and DepEd policies. Number 2, responsive. Competencies are applicable in any range of context, big or small school, city or rural school, and culturally divergent groups. Number 3, impartial. These are applicable to any school head regardless of position, item, gender, age, experience, and other personal circumstances. Number 4, coherent. These are clear and logical. Number 5, lastly, valid. All performance indicators are research and experience-based. Again, the 5 principles guided the framing of the NCBSSH are: number 1, function-based; number 2, responsive; number 3, impartial; number 4, coherent; and number 5, valid. And now, let's move on core principle. Core principle: school heads are competent, committed, and accountable in providing access to quality and relevant education for all through transformational leadership and high degree of professionalism. Core principles are classified into 7 domains, and each domain has competency strand.
The first domain is a school leadership. Effective leadership is the core of every successful. This domain emphasizes that effective school leaders collaboratively create a vision and establish a climate for teachers, non-teaching personnel, and the learners to reach their highest level of achievement. The competency strand of domain are development and communicating vision, mission, goals and objectives, database strategic planning, problem solving, building high-performance teams, coordinating with others, leading and managing change.
The second domain is instructional leadership. Education reforms have created an urgent need for a strong emphasis on the development of instructional leadership skills. These domains cover those actions in instructional leadership. Examples are assessment for learning, development and implementation, instructional supervision, and the technical assistance that school heads take or delegate to others. To promote good teaching and high-level learning among pupils or students, the competencies strands for these domains are assessment for learning, development programs and adapting existing programs, implementing programs for instructional improvement, and instructional supervision.
We have the third domain, creating student-centered learning climate. The domain requires that effective school leaders set high standards and create high expectation for learners, at the same time recognizing their achievements. The competency strand of Domain 3 is setting high social and academic expectations, creating school environment focused on the head of the learners. This domain is important for students to have effective learning and independent learning. At the same time, learning environment or learning climate is one of the factor of student learning. So as a school head, you should provide them organized and quality learning environment. Instead of spending money on physical improvement of school, spend it more on instructional learners like buying new books or encyclopedia and other learning materials.
The fourth domain is HR management and professional development. Effective school leaders develop the talents of those around them. This domain includes the nurturing and supporting of a learning community that recruits teachers based on NCBTS and promotes the continuous growth of development of personnel-based IPPD and SPPD. The competency strengths of this domain are creating a professional learning community, recruitment and hiring, managing performance of teachers and staff. As an effective leader, you should train your co-teachers to become effective teachers to their students because as a school head is your responsibilities. You are committed and you are accountable to the quality and relevant learning of these students and your teacher as well.
The next, fifth domain is parent involvement and community partnership. Effective school heads engage in shared decision making with the community in achieving universal participation, completion, and functional literacy. This domain covers parent and other stakeholders' involvement to raise learners' performance. The competency strand of this domain are parental involvement and external community partnership.
The next sixth domain, school management and operations. This domain covers the critical role of school heads play in managing the implementing and monitoring of their school's improvement plan or annual. The competency of this domain are managing school operations, fiscal management, along with the use of technology in the management operations.
And lastly, we have domain number 7, the personal attributes and interpersonal effectiveness. Effective school leaders are models of professionalism, ethical, and moral leadership. This domain includes development of pride in the nobility of the teaching profession. Its competency strands of this domain are professionalism, communication, interpersonal sensitivity, partners' honesty, and integrity. This National Competency Standard 2 will ensure the continuing flow of dedicated and passionate applicants to the school head's position and not those wishy-washy type whose primary common agenda to have higher pay, prestige, and easy work as formally perceived by many school head positions.
We are now done discussing the competency framework for Philippines, and now let's proceed to the competency framework of Southeast Asia 2014 edition. As a member of Association of Southeast Asian Nation or ASEAN, let's also take a look at the competencies of school heads for Southeast Asia. In 2003, the Southeast Asian Minister of Education Organization Regional Center of Educational Innovation and Technology or CIMEO Inotech developed the competency framework was envisioned to provide a common foundation for defining what skills and attributes are needed of school head in order to effectively carry out their roles and lead their schools to excellence and success. Since then, the framework has been used as basis for Inotech's program offerings for school heads in the region. 10 years after CIMEO Inotech undertook the challenges of reviewing and updating the competency framework to make sure that remains responsive to the changing context and needs of school head as well as the communities they serve. Accordingly, a consultative and participatory process that spanned 9 months from October 2012 and February to September 2013 and covered 9 countries: Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Lao PDR, Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam is undertaken. The process took into account views and responses of a good number and mix of school heads and stakeholders composed of Ministry of Education officials, teachers, students, parents, education experts from all over the region.
The 5 general competencies were ranked by participants in terms of their importance, frequency, performance, and amount of training school heads would need the most as a policy. Number 1, strategic thinking and innovation. Number 2, managerial leadership. Number 3, instructional leadership. Number 4, personal excellence. And number 5, stakeholders engagement. The competency framework. It is intended to be a basis for the development of CIMEO Inotech Capacity Building Initiative Southeast Asian School Heads. It does not replace but rather complements existing regional and national standards. Ministry of Education officials may find the framework an important and useful benchmark. School heads may find it useful in keeping themselves of the competencies that they need in order to successfully perform their role as school heads in Southeast Asia. Now, let's proceed on the next topic, the domain of stakeholders engagement. Domain of stakeholder engagement classified into 2 domains. The first domain is promoting shared responsibility for school improvement. It includes build, trust, and lead teams or communities. For school improvement, empower the community to work for enhancement of school performance. It is important that school build trust and empower the community for the betterment of school and for the improvement of school performance. And now, let's continue on the second domain of stakeholder engagement. The domain 2 is all about managing education alliance and network. Managing educational alike communicate effectively with different stakeholders, facilitate school community partnership and activities, promote consensus building and manage conflict and practice negotiation skills. As a school head, you should know how to communicate effectively with different stakeholders for you to build harmonious relationship with them. And as a school head, you should know how to facilitate school community partnership and activities to improve learners' learning and school improvement as well. Late may happen when making decision and implementing collaborative plans. So, as a school head, you should know how to manage it, and you should also know how to practice these negotiation skills. Because you as a school head, you will be engaged and deal with different person, special stakeholders, and different administrations. So you should know what should be done and not when it comes in negotiation with different partnership in school. And that's the end of our discussion. Thank you so much for listening.